hypertension. Unmanaged hypertension increases the risk of people developing dementia. The other one is diabetes. People who have diabetes have a higher risk of developing dementia. And hearing loss. People who have hearing loss, untreated hearing loss, have a higher risk of developing dementia, and also people who are socially isolated. Smoking, alcohol use, and a sedentary lifestyle where you don't have regular exercise also increases your risk of dementia. Some of the earlier signs of dementia are sometimes they look like depression. For example, loss of interest in things you're interested. And another thing to remember is that dementia is a disease of the brain. It starts from the brain, right? So when different parts of the brain are being affected, for the part of the brain that manages a function like memory, it starts being affected. So trying to understand how the brain is changing and developing tools that can be used on, our tools will be on a tablet. And when someone takes the test on a tablet, you can see how they perform on different. So I'm working on a research project where we're trying to develop cognitive assessment tools that can assist doctors to detect dementia early. So cognitive, it's about the mind. So it's about how we function in the world, how we think, how we solve problems, our memory, our attention, our awareness around the spaces we are in.
Hello viewers, and welcome to our show. Today we are visiting Gashie, Nyari in Gashie, and we are meeting with a lady who is a psychologist by profession. She is a student, continuing student who is a project manager of something she's going to tell us. She's been a caregiver, and she had been taking care of, assisting the mother, taking care of their dad who got a dementia at the early 50s. That is like 40-something dementia. Earlier on in our other videos, we've had talking about dementia. It's for the elderly, people over 80. This time, this guy was only in early 50s. And it was kind of a shock to the family, to young children who were in school, and it was kind of traumatizing. With us today, we have Wambui Karanja. Wambui, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you, and welcome to our show.
Right,
And
thank you.
for willing to share with us your experience in taking care of your dad and how your journey has been as a young person. And that was quite an experience. And so, Wambui, tell us who you are. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a psychologist, and I work in research in dementia, and I'm interested in promoting early detection of dementia, because most people with dementia get diagnosed way too late into the disease progression, and that really hinders a lot of good care and support. And also for people with dementia, they don't get to talk about how they want their care arranged, and also they don't get to really like understand what's going on with their own disease. So I'm also interested in promoting awareness of dementia, especially among health caregivers and also caregivers at home.
Wow.
Yes.
So Wambui, as from your description, you are a psychologist by profession. And now you're telling us you are doing research on dementia, which is like a dementia disease, the things that you're going to tell us in details. You are not even in the medical field. What prompted you to think about doing research from being a psychologist? Would there be a reason that you decided to study about all this you're doing today?
Yeah, so my experience with the work on dementia started because my dad developed dementia at an early age, in his early 50s. and there were no support systems, there was no information, and my family, my mom and my siblings and my extended family didn't have information. So for me, understanding from my professional point of view, and also just meeting other people who have been affected by disease was crucial in us supporting our dad by learning, and for me leading that process of learning as a family.
So tell us about your dad. Your dad, what did he used to do, and what changes did you start seeing in him for you to have concluded your dad had dementia? To know 50 is quite early. It's a young person. Must have been working. He had not even reached retirement age. So tell us about your dad.
So my dad was a teacher, a very good man. He started showing signs of dementia, which was mostly forgetting and getting lost, and and also just loss of interest in things that he was really interested in. For example, he was like such a leader in our village, so he started losing interest in things that he enjoyed doing. He was also a farmer, so those early symptoms, and especially like getting lost, is why we had to get help. So at some point he got lost. Yeah, so that prompted us to see a psychiatrist who told us that it was dementia.
How old were you then?
I really don't remember, but I was probably like in my early 20s or 19, from 19,
You
around
were
that
just
age.
in high school? You were
I just finished high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the years your dad, boom. The teacher you knew changed.
Yeah.
And now you are told a big name, this is dementia.
Yeah.
How was it for you and your family?
It's really difficult when you don't have information and you don't understand the disease. And the disease itself is a very difficult disease. So it was a very difficult process. In a family setting, everyone processes disease and changes in a different way. So some people withdraw, others get really involved, others develop mental illness such as depression and anxiety because of this big change. And it's also a sort of loss, because if someone you know and you care about starts to change, you sort of like start to grieve the person they were before.
Wow.
Yeah.
So besides the rest of members of the family, how did it affect you personally?
For me, I was a very bright student growing up, and my dad like used to be the person that used to be my, I think you can call him my anchor. He was like kept me accountable. So he was like, "Have you done your assignments? How are your grades?" And at that point, when he had like dementia, in those early age, I was just joining university. So he was not, when I joined university, my university studies were really affected, because he could no longer be like, how have you performed in this semester? And such kind of things. So it was a very difficult experience. And also, he was your mentor. So like when he starts, that loss really was difficult. And it's in my early adulthood, in my early 20s. So everyone, like most of my friends, their fathers were healthy. And
As a young person.
As a young person. So just to have now that support and guidance from my dad made me grow up really early. Yeah, and yeah.
And like you told me earlier before the show, you had dropped, you want to defer your education.
Yeah, because of like...
Could that have been the reason?
Yeah, also like when my dad had to retire early, like our family finances were affected. And you know how systems work.
Yeah.
The pension doesn't come immediately. So there are financial difficulties. There was also just the general, it's a grieving process. You're grieving someone who's still alive.
So you deferred?
Yeah, so I had to defer some of my university time. Yeah.
Was your mom working?
My mom is a farmer, so like the income from the farm is not always enough. Yeah. So.
And this is something you had not planned for. You never knew someone at age 50 before he retired is in a situation like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what happened next?
Yeah, so I started volunteering with the Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization Kenya, and I was also a volunteer for another organization called World Young Leaders in Dementia. And that really prompted me to see what's happening outside in the world in terms of dementia care, dementia awareness, dementia support, even diagnosis, risk reduction, and things like that. And when you realize that that people have developed systems around dementia care and support, and you don't have the same support in your country, it's really a motivation to start laying the groundwork for such work to happen and for changes
You're already
to
talking
happen.
big, talking global. Now here you are in Kenya. This is a disease you never heard
Yeah.
about before.
Yeah.
I don't know where you grew up, if it's in the village or in the city.
Yeah.
And here you say, I started volunteering. How did that come to you? Where did you get that information to start even thinking of to volunteer?
Yeah, honestly, like
Is
when
that
you,
the time you had defined?
yeah, it was around the same time because you have a lot of time in your hands, and
Instead of looking for a job, or of course, if you defined because money was not enough for you to continue, and here you are, you're thinking, I would rather volunteer. How did you think like that?
like I was honestly like really motivated to like support other people who had been affected by dementia like me, right? So I think that was the part of my volunteer, and also like in that space of volunteering, it's where you meet other people who truly understand what you're going through. So other caregivers, mostly like they were much older than me, and I was like just a young girl, but then other people who have their parents who are in their 70s and 80s and they're much older than me and they're looking after them. But it was really like the space at that age where I could feel understood.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as a young person, you could still
Yeah.
feel understood by older persons, but just by volunteering.
Yeah,
You didn't even care
absolutely.
about the money, so instead of staying home,
Yeah.
you would rather volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. And
learn.
because like when you experience such a loss, it's because it's a very painful loss. Even when you're with your age mates, you constantly feel like they don't understand what you're going through, and it's a very isolating feeling. Yeah.
You want to be around people who are talking the same way you are talking.
Yeah, yeah.
So is that why supporting groups are very important?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Peer support groups are really important for caregivers, for anyone going through a situation where not many people are going through, because it helps you share your experiences and feel less alone in your situation. In your situation, because when you start to see other people's experiences reflected in your own life, first of all, it starts to motivate the person to come up with solutions together. Yeah, support groups are really like a catalyst for change. Most Alzheimer's associations across the world were started because of support groups.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Wambui, do you think you are joining these supporting groups and learning more from online and working with them, volunteering with them? Do you think it has made a difference in your family? I mean, to your family members, your brothers and sisters, and your mom in understanding this disease more?
Oh, absolutely, it really helped. So my parents live in Murang'a County, and I was in university in Nairobi, so I was attending the support group meetings because they're only available in Nairobi. And then I would go back home and understand what's going on and be able to like share other people's experiences and how they have solved their problems, and yeah, bring those solutions back to my homestead.
So as a young university student, instead of going hanging out with other young girls of your age,
Yeah.
you are busy thinking how to solve a problem in our society.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Thank you so much, Wambui, for that. That was brave. And I think it is still brilliant and brave of
Yeah.
you. So you tell me now you are a project manager. Project manager of what?
So I'm working on a research project where we're trying to develop cognitive assessment tools that can assist doctors to detect dementia early. So cognitive, it's about the mind. So it's about how we function in the world, how we think, how we solve problems, our memory, our attention, our awareness around the spaces we are in. All those are different. That's what cognitive domains and cognition means, right? So it's to measure. So, for example, I give example of dementia. Some of the earliest signs of dementia are sometimes they look like depression. For example, loss of interest in things you're interested. And another thing to remember is that dementia is a disease of the brain. It starts from the brain, right? So when different parts of the brain are being affected, for the part of the brain that manages a function like memory, it starts being affected. So trying to understand how the brain is changing and developing tools that can be used on, our tools will be on a tablet. And when someone takes the test on a tablet, you can see how they perform on different domains. For example, memory, attention, spatial awareness.
So is it like a new invention, or is this something that is existing in other countries, or is something like you as Kenyan researchers are doing to find out?
In the field itself, we can say it's novel. It's new. There isn't many researchers, especially in low and middle income countries, and in the global south, we don't have such tools, but they exist in most developed countries such as the US and the UK. They already have such tools. But the challenge is we don't start from scratch here. If tools are already in use in other countries, because it's a lot of work. They put in a lot of work to develop those tools, but it's to adapt them for our cultural setting, for our population profiles. So my work is to try and understand our population profile, so that when healthcare workers, doctors start using those tools, they understand who is cognitively unwell and those ones who are okay.
So, Wambui, do you think the reason why we don't have those research tools, is it because our doctors here do not have the knowledge? Is it because our leadership does not understand these things? Or what would be the reason? Because we have doctors also who have been to school like other doctors.
Yeah.
Our doctors, do they learn differently from others? Or what do you think? What is the miss? What is missing out here?
So, first of all, like, a lot of empathy to the doctors and the healthcare workers in this country, because they are stretched in very many directions. We don't have the big population of doctors like we have in most developed countries, and they have to serve much bigger populations with much grander and bigger needs. And so sometimes problems such as memory loss and dementia is not as serious as, let's say,
it's an old people's disease.
So yeah, so there's research that the Alzheimer's Disease International did, and most doctors believe that dementia is a normal part of aging, right? And those are doctors.
That's why I'm asking you, do our doctors here in Kenya, or the Kenyan doctors, do they read from a different syllabus from your research, because that is what you're doing? Because if these things are existing elsewhere, why our doctors, they don't even know we need to have tools?
So the reason, there are many reasons, but I'd say the main reason is, as you said, the syllabus, is that some of these issues that face older people or people as they age, they are not prioritized in whatever. So even if in training, doctors don't receive training on dementia, or the portion of training is very small, in that, like, when they sit in the clinics, they will refer to something as not as serious as they think, but it's a very difficult thing for families and for the person themselves.
Could even be the reason why until today almost 70 years after independence, we do not have any laws about the aging population.
Yeah.
So, do you think dementia can be slowed down?
Like before dementia can be slowed down.
Are there risk factors?
Yeah, yes, there are risk factors. So there's important work that's going on at the moment across the globe about reducing risk of dementia. And there are those groups that are considered...
Which globe? Are you including Kenya within
Yes.
that globe?
Yeah, of course. And there are many risk factors, but I'll mention the really important ones and the ones that are really common. One of them is hypertension. Unmanaged hypertension increases the risk of people developing dementia. The other one is diabetes. People who have diabetes have a higher risk of developing dementia. And hearing loss. People who have hearing loss, untreated hearing loss, have a higher risk of developing dementia, and also people who are socially isolated. Smoking, alcohol use, and a sedentary lifestyle where you don't have regular exercise also increases your risk of developing dementia. So as people age, it is important that they stay socially connected. They manage other non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, to reduce the risk, because research has shown that if you manage those factors, and especially if you have diabetes, you're hypertensive, you're socially isolated, it increases your risk. So if probably like you have diabetes, you're hypertensive, stay socially connected. At least manage some of the risk factors
Stay
together.
socially connected, manage diabetes and hypertension,
and exercise, yeah. And manage stress. Management of stress is really important in supporting our brains and keeping them healthy.
The most unfortunate part, Wambui, is in our countries maybe something like diabetes or high blood pressure. A lot of people, they don't even know they have it until they fall down and then they are rushed to the hospital. That's when you hear, oh, the blood pressure was very high. Oh, you have blood pressure. And I think if really the issue of older persons' issues was important, was a priority in our country, that we could be having things like regular checkups in general hospitals. You just go, you have somewhere where the older persons come in, just have general checkup. So that is now you can dictate it earlier before the tools you are talking about. Them been going for regular checkups. If we are like a section in the hospital, like the way women go for clinics when they are pregnant, then we have a section where older persons just go for free checkups. They have like something permanent in an area where they go for checkups, for pressure, for sugar, something like that.
Yeah, the other thing you need to remember is that health does not start from the hospital. Health starts from yourself and also like your surrounding. So when we think about health in our communities, we need to start thinking about if the chief, for example, the chief's work is to maintain order, his work is also to ensure that his community is healthy. A blood pressure cuff, yeah, measuring blood pressure, anyone can be trained, right? And probably like it's something we should think about. A chief should be able, anyone who needs to get their blood pressure checked, because blood pressure is
at the chief's camp.
Yeah,
we can have someone there, just go there, like surely that's not very expensive, like you're saying. It's manageable, and that's a preventive measure. Yeah, community health workers can be, even someone who is not even been trained can be trained to check these are the numbers. Let the older persons go there, like she's saying. It doesn't have to be the hospital setup. You can go to the chief's office and be checked.
Yeah, because now hypertension is a very big problem as people age, because it also increases risk for stroke, and stroke is another, when people have stroke, they have a higher risk of dementia as well. A type of dementia called vascular dementia, which is in the small blood vessels.
So, Wambui, From that vast experience as a young person, if you are to talk to the young people out there, maybe they have not experienced that, or maybe they have experienced and they didn't even know what it was, what would you tell them?
First of all, like to the young people, complete your education. Go, and if you can extend and get more education, it's really important, because also education, higher education, and getting continuous learning reduces your risk of dementia. So first of all, stay a student, stay learning and gaining new skills. The other thing is that it's important that we support our older populations and make them aware that they can reduce their risk of developing dementia. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wambui. Viewers, let's take care of our older persons. My voice, your voice, our voices are the voice of the voiceless. And we have an hashtag that we say, sote tuwajibike tutunze wakongwe. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wambui.
Thank you.